live and custom streaming service.
It's going. There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. It is Suzanne Hart. This is our first live of 2020. So I'm going to give it a moment for people to get on board. All right, here we go. We are live, sir.
Yes.
We'll give it a moment for people to start to join us. So hello, everyone. As you're joining in, this is Suzanne Hart. This is our first Facebook Live of 2020, the first Facebook Live of the decade. So excited. I am especially excited because I have a very special guest today, and I'll be introducing this young man, this gentleman, in a few moments. But just wanting to let you know, as you join, please let us know where you're hailing from and what you do. Remember, this is your opportunity to network. This is your opportunity to let people know who you are, what you do, particularly if you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, or you do something extra special that you want to share with the world. This is your opportunity to connect. And this is for whether you are listening live or whether you're listening to the replay, because people do go back, comment, and stream, and they might hear something about you or see something about you that you have posted and reach out to you. So this is your opportunity to network. Hello, Mr. Penn, welcome. And I see Miss Mary Brookins joining us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The other thing I'm going to ask you to do, this conversation is going to be extraordinary. So as you jump on and you let us know who you are, what you do, where you're calling in from, please do bless a life. And what I mean by that is share this link, share this video, because our topic today is unconditional acceptance. I want you to think about that, unconditional acceptance. And we're going to talk about what to do when life changes as you know it forever. Like life changes, something happens and life is totally changed, right? Because the young man that's sitting with me today has survived a situation where life totally changes, he knows it. And we're going to talk about what you do. How do you sit in this place of unconditional acceptance? And what is your journey exactly to unconditional acceptance? So welcome, I see Cindy joining, welcome, welcome. And again, this is Suzanne Hart, and I'm going to get us started, and I'm going to introduce my very, very special guest. So, you know, what to say about this young man? First of all, I met this young man a number of years ago, and he struck me. You know, when someone leaves an impression, and I remember I came home and I reached out to him. I was struck by his determination. I was struck by his energy. And just who he was being and becoming in the world. So my guest today has survived a benign tumor in his brain, okay? He has had 3 strokes, not one, but 3 strokes before the age of, he's actually 26, 27. He has battled with depression, suicide ideations, one attempt, as his life has changed. Now, I want you to just imagine, if you will, what it would be like to find out you have a brain tumor, have 3 strokes, and come through that with your life totally different. We are going to be talking. He's the founder of the podcast Favor, and I can totally understand why that title. And so I'm not going to tell you more because I want this gentleman to tell his story. So please welcome Kawan Glover. Hello, Kawan. How are you?
Hello, Suzanne. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you, Suzanne, for having me. And just as Suzanne said, it was the same for me. When I met Suzanne, I came to the session It was at a conference, and I had no clue where I was going. And I sat in and heard her speak. When she reached out to me, I could tell she was a genuine person. And when there's an instant connection, we started getting closer and closer. And then she started collaborating with people I was collaborating with. And then we came to form this bond. And now we're here today. Like Suzanne said, I've had an interesting journey in the short time I've been alive, and it has definitely changed my perspective. I did have 3 surgeries, and I had stroke, and things just changed for me drastically. I had been able-bodied most of my life. I had been a student athlete. Like Suzanne mentioned at the beginning, things were going very well for me. My life was on a very upward trajectory. I was a 4.0 student. When I came to college, I did boxing. I had 3.75 my first semester. And then this brain tumor was found in my head. I started losing motor function, wasn't able to talk. And they said it was a lesion. I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. Went home.
So Kawan, let me stop you for a moment. So first of all, correction, 1 stroke, 3 brain surgeries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
You're a little gurgly, so I want to just stop you so we can get that handled, because I want everybody to be able to hear everything that you're saying, right? So just check your mic and just check your sound so we make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, I think I was talking too fast. My words might have been slurred. A little far from the mic too.
Okay. So you had 1 stroke, 3 brain surgeries.
Right.
So let's get that clear so that we're all on the same page. And so you find out that you have this tumor. What happens? What goes through your mind when you're told this?
It was almost like an immediate dissociation. Like I had seen these things happen to people on movies and that weren't a part of my life. And when they told me, I was just kind of like, this isn't real. This doesn't happen to people like me. I'm only 20. So like, this is not real. Just fix it and I can go back to my life. And that's what they did in the first surgery, at least.
So after the first surgery, you actually thought it was fixed, everything was fine?
Yeah, and I went back to college life, being a number 20-year-old, partying, all the things you can imagine. And then a month later, I had a headache for 13 hours, and I threw up clear liquid, and I had a stroke in the room by myself. And that was a reality check that I am not invincible. And at that age, before 21, dealing with that mortality was not something I was prepared for. And it changed the way I looked at the world forever. To know that I could be that young and that can happen.
And that's interesting that you're saying that, because most people don't actually face what you're talking about till much later on. So you have this event. So you have a stroke in your room by yourself.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was in the room myself, and at first I didn't know what was happening because my vision started getting cloudy. I stood up and I threw up water, and I went back to bed. I was like, I gotta be somewhere. I was actually supposed to be the next day in the city, and I was like, I'm just gonna lay down, sleep it off. And then as soon as I crawled up on the bed, my arm went like useless, and my right leg kicked out, and I was like, I think I'm having a stroke. And I called the doctors, and I called my mom, and everything rolled after that. But that stroke was really the defining one of the defining moments in my life.
I can imagine. So you have a stroke. What happened? Like what were you like after your first stroke?
I was immediately my emotions were stronger, and that I felt things a lot harder. I felt like I had been robbed of something that I didn't deserve to be robbed of. Like my confidence was shot. My physical nature as an athlete, but as a student, I was boxing at the University of Maryland, lifting weights, getting into fitness, and that was seemingly taken away from me. And it was hard to accept. And that's what we're talking about today. It was hard to accept that my new reality, and that led into a lot of different emotions that I wasn't prepared for. A lot of depression, for that next summer, it was just, I was in my apartment for that whole summer, just watching one show and crying on the couch. I never went into my room. I rarely ate, and it was just I let the negative voice in my head get louder and louder until it controlled what I was doing.
Wow. Sheree, Kawan, we're getting just a feedback that your audio is scratchy.
I think that's the air here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you're gurgly at times.
Okay. I'll just stay close to the mic.
Okay. It sounds like it comes and goes, so we'll keep an eye on it. So
yeah, it's probably this darn computer, to be honest.
Technology, love it when it works,
Yes.
and we'll deal with it when it does what it does.
Exactly.
So now you know, let's talk a little bit about acceptance. So your confidence is you feel like it's shot. Are you withdrawing?
Yeah, I definitely like I said, it was in that summer. I just basically sat in my apartment on my couch. I didn't even go into my room. And there was another experience when I was in rehab that really, really made me view the world differently. And there's an event where you go to an outing right before you release. And I saw the way people looked at me when I was kind of limping around, and I saw the way other people everybody looked at the people I was with, like they were in the way. And I felt that was the first time I'd ever experienced being an other. And that was very challenging to who I was voted most likely to succeed. I had good grades, so I just thought my life was going in a good way. And then all of a sudden, and within a couple of months, it wasn't.
So talk a little bit, because this is interesting. Talk a little bit about life before the stroke. What was your trajectory? What was life in your mind? Where were you going? And then we'll talk a little bit about what life was like after. So talk a little bit about Kawan, this college student, ready to take on the world.
Yeah, so at the end of high school, I was voted most likely to succeed. I had dreams of being president or on Wall Street. When I got into college that first semester, that was fall 12. I got all A minuses. I feel like all the teachers cheated me and shit off 1.0. But that's a whole nother story. I was doing boxing, really embracing my physicality, really diving into that athletic DNA that I believed I had. And I was really finding my own way. First time being away from my parents, really. So it was me discovering myself and understanding what the college life was all about. And then I want to say I joined a fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, one of the best fraternities, if not the only fraternity that matters. And again, I was a freshman doing all these amazing things. And it just that after I joined the fraternity, I started doing more things on campus. So, as a freshman, you want to find your balance and slow down, but I didn't. I intensified the pace. So I joined different organizations, different clubs, more athletic activities, and that resulted in my GPA plummeting. It went from 3.7 to 1.9,
okay,
which is like a drastic shift for me. And then that summer, I began to work with Brent, and then soon after that, yeah,
okay.
that was a big factor in my life. But his wife was actually the one that actually sent me to the doctor, which sent me to the hospital. So if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here right now.
Wow. So Kawan, so you are enjoying college life. You see a future. You're an active college student. And really, were there any signs for you that something was wrong?
No, not in. And recently I discovered it may have been there my whole life, and I just created the conditions where it burst. But there wasn't any signs or anything that led towards it until I started losing my balance. And this was a couple of weeks before it actually took hold.
Okay.
But other than that, no signs completely.
So you have a stroke. Talk about, and then you have your seizure. Talk about what were you like physically after that?
I felt like half a man, to be honest. I lost a lot of functionality on my right side. It was harder to walk. foot drag, just not able. I had to relearn how to use my right hand, and I'm right hand dominant, so that was disconcerting for me as well. Over time, I was able to gain that dexterity back, but it was debilitating. I had done most of everything with the right side of my body. Even when I ran track, I kind of started with my right leg as my power leg, and I was no longer able to run. Like
Wow.
running for me now is not even a thing because that's more dangerous than, walking too fast or, dangerous than a lot of other things. Running for me could cause more harm than standing still.
Wow. So you go from being very active to now having some mobility issues. So
Yeah, it really just interrupted the life I thought I was going to live.
absolutely, absolutely. So talk about, I know for most people when something happens that it is catastrophic, right? And the trajectory of your life changes, there is a host of emotions. And I'm talking for the average person, loss of employment, something happens in your home, something happens in a relationship. For a lot of people, it experiences catastrophic. You're on the other extreme when we're talking about this, because when we talk about life as you know it changes, life as you know it totally changes. Talk a little bit about the emotions that you go through and what happened for you.
The emotions were, again, I did what a lot of Black men do. Some people hide their emotions. I buried mine, and I dissociated from that side of who I was.
Okay.
After I suffered that depression and I came out of it, I kind of acted like it didn't happen, or it was just another part of my life that doesn't relate to me anymore. And then soon after that summer, into August, September, went for a checkup, and my doctor, Dr. Jonathan Sherman in GW, was looking at my scans, and he had always said something was still there, but we don't know what it is. So I'm getting used to life again. I'm getting back to, I'm adjusting to my deficits.
Okay.
And then he looked at my scans and he was like, I don't know how to say this, but it's there again, and it's growing back bigger and faster. And I was in the hospital, I was in the exam room, and my mom instantly started crying, and my dad kind of hugged her. And my immediate response wasn't to break down. It was like, as soon as she said that, I said, sign me up for the next surgery. And everybody in the room kind of looked at me like, are you sure? You sure you don't want to wait? Think about this? And I was like, no, because I thought that was my responsibility to keep my parents strong. If I folded, then everybody else around me folded. So I took on that burden to just jump right into the next thing.
Wow. Okay. That's courageous and concerning at the same time.
Exactly.
I get it. I get it. So now you go in for another surgery.
Yeah, October 1st, 2015. And it was unique this time because I had decided, unbeknownst to anyone, that if I didn't wake up, I was okay with that. Like, this was the end for me. I was totally okay with not waking up, as I was tired of living as I believed I was half a man, less than, you know what I'm saying? So I just like, if I don't wake up, fine. So when I went into the surgery, I was calm, collected, and like ready to say goodbye.
And come on, let me ask you this. Was that a contributing factor to the quick sign me up? Was that?
I think the quick sign me up was more from my mom.
Okay.
I saw her break down and suffering from me emotionally, the things I've been through. And she recently told me that she felt like she had been a failure as a parent because she didn't react fast enough the first time I said something about a headache. So that was my way of protecting my family and my parents. But as it got closer, I just kind of I think I want to let go. I think I want this to be over. And during the surgery, I had a dream, and I read about it in the book I wrote. In that dream, I wake up and I'm in a room and it's kind of white, I got on a hooded jacket and I'm throwing punches. Everything works as normally as it did before. And I'm like, well, this is great. This is awesome. And then I start floating and losing clothes and losing form. And then I see myself on a canvas and there's rain coming down, but the rain's not touching me. And as soon as I get to the top of the frame, the picture or whatever, there's a hand pushing me down. It's like, you're not done yet. And then I wake up from the surgery. And I'm like, damn it, I'm back. And
not relieved to be back, but damn, I'm back.
Yeah, that was my immediate response, like, I'm back.
Okay.
But that wasn't the end of the difficulty in that procedure. I think the physical pain from the spinal tap that I had to leave in for 5 days, you often rank pain on a scale from 1 to 10. For me, it was a 37. Easily. For 5 days, they were draining my brain fluid. So that was the difficult experience to go through.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what happens next, Kawan? So, I mean, I'm tracking this and I want to track it for everyone listening because it's kind of hard to believe. So surgery number 2. And at this point, I can hear as you're talking, there's a part of you that's like, I'm done. This is too much. And I love the word you use. I'm half a man. I'm half of who I'm supposed to be. So what happens next?
In the hospital, to counteract the pain, they gave me fentanyl. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but they say it's like heroin on steroids.
Yeah.
And they gave me that on an hourly basis to the point where I become like almost addicted to it. Like every hour I'm sticking my arm out. And it started crushing my chest. So they switched me to like Percocet and things like that. And after I got out, they gave me another medicine, had caffeine in it, but it was another painkiller. I got caffeine withdrawals, shook that off, went back to school. This is 2016. And I still, when you bottle your emotions, at some point, they're going to come back to get at you because you didn't deal with them. And I had not yet ever faced them. So they would bubble up. And in order to suppress them even more, I got into addiction to opioids like Percocet, and I got into cough syrup on a regular basis where I didn't do much without being on those medications. And that led to one day I was sitting in my room, and it was one of the classes I was taking. You have to report whether you're not going to be in class. And I made up some excuse about some family member going through something. And I sat in my room and I cried. And, I was just like, I'm done. So I wrote a letter to my line brothers, like, I'm done, I'm tired. And then within about 10 minutes, somebody was kicking my door down, trying to pick up what's wrong with you going through. And I just talked about it like, I'm just tired. I didn't have words. I was just tired of feeling alone. I feel like no one understood. And I really believe that these were my own thoughts and nobody had ever gone through them. And I hated my life for being what it was. And I didn't feel like it was worth it living anymore. So I was just in a rut.
And when you say your emotions bubbled up and then you would take drugs to, your prescription drugs to push it down. Talk a little bit about what that means when it bubbles up.
So like, I like to say pain, when you push something, when you have pressure in a soda can, if you shake it up, it's going to bubble up. It's going to fit. That the can's going to get tight. So every time they would start to loosen the top, I would screw it back on with drugs. And the pressure will build and build. And at some point, when you're not on those drugs, that pressure starts to realize nothing stopping us from coming up. So every time we will bubble up, I will push you back down, and push you back down, and push you back down. And the more the pressure compounds and compounds and compounds, the stronger the force is to get out. So they were looking to get out and like manifest in some kind of way. And then manifesting in me isolating myself.
That is a great description, Juan. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, that is so key because you know, our mind is an interesting thing, right? And it will cope to protect us in so many different ways. So here you are, but it happens to everybody. The more you push things down, it bubbles up, and it bubbles up and bubbles out in the weirdest ways, right? Whether it be tears, whether it be anger, whether it be all sorts of different things. And we all have our coping mechanisms. We all have our coping mechanisms, whether it's bubbling up in a small way, whether it's bubbling up in a big way. But what you're really drawing attention to is the more you push things down, the bigger it bubbles up. And the more that's down there, the bigger the potential for the breakdown, the explosion, the whatever. So you're in your dorm room, frat brothers are kicking down your door, and you are tired and had enough. So what happens where's the turning point for you? Because I know there's one more surgery I haven't heard of. We haven't mentioned yet. So what happens after that? Where's the turning point?
I think before that attempt, I had flushed the drugs and dumped them. I don't really remember what kind of mental state, but I just realized they were holding me back. And because I dumped those suppressors, that boiling up you were talking about, like, started climbing, and it reached the head. Then I got a girlfriend, and you know, she came at a time where I was just starting to come around again, and she, you know, encouraged me to get into therapy. And that was a good release where I was dealing with any issues from past relationships, or things that weren't exactly related to the surgery, but they were just digging into my past, figuring out where somebody's earlier frustration, because there was obviously something there before even all this trauma happened to me. So I was able to address that. And then, you know, I invested my time in relationship with her. And I like to use an analogy of when you meet people, they're either salt or pepper. And when I say that, the reason people use salt and pepper, salt enhances the flavor, pepper transforms it. So she was able to salt what I had inside that was the good in me, enhance that flavor, so I can, you know, get back to operating in my normal state, being a emotionally well-rounded person. And that went on. You know, I went and finished school. I graduated on May 23rd, 2017. And I worked with Brent full time May 25th, 2017. So everything was going great. I mean, my life was in a very positive trajectory. I was 23 at this point. Okay. And me and my girlfriend at the time had a get together. And the first time this happened, the first time I had a stroke, I had a drink, but I wasn't getting drunk. I just lost balance. And the same thing happened around that time. We had a get together, I had a drink, but I wasn't getting drunk. I just lost balance. Then the headache started again, and then things got worse. And my vision, I went to the office, went to the doctor. She wasn't there. So I went to Brent's office. We were about to record a video, Facebook Live, finished that, and he looked at me. He was like, "Dude, you okay?" And I had my hands in my head like this. And he just like, "You need to go to the hospital." And I thought, I was like, no, I don't want to do this. In my head, I'm like arguing with myself. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to go back. And I was like, yes. And then I got to my house. My mom took me to the hospital. Same procedure as the first time. They looked at me, sent me home, and it got worse. Then this is where I started losing the feeling on this side of my face. I lost taste on this side of my mouth. The muscles on my right side were completely numb. My left eyeball stayed in one direction, and that I started deteriorating. It was hard to walk. It was hard to talk at one point. We went around to find a host of doctors. One of the doctors actually told me, if you don't get this procedure in 3 to 6 months, you're gonna die. And he said it kind of plainly like that. And my parents were in the room again, and you know, I expected him to say, well, yeah, I'm gonna do what I can to fix you. And he kind of just didn't say that. He just said it like that and pawned me off the radiation. So again, but the biggest moment of favor is when all the doctors that I had seen met up at one conference and decided on the doctor that we had met with, which I wanted to be my doctor, Dr. James K. Liu up at Rutgers University. And I think that man saved my life. and now I'm here because of him. But
Now the third surgery was the charm, if you will.
yeah, October 12th, 2017.
Okay. So there's still a missing for me. And so I get that you're working, you've come through another surgery, but I feel like there's a point for you where you actually begin to say, this is who Kawan is now.
Yeah, and I want to tell you guys that I didn't reach that point until August 2019.
Ooh, Lord. So
Yeah. The most difficult part people don't often understand is not the surgeries, because I didn't have to do anything. I just lay there and the doctors did whatever they had to do. It was the internal work that I had to do to become honest with myself and accept who I had become and what this story had given me, more so than not paying attention to what it had taken from me, but it had given me so much more. And I realized the biggest thing was I was carrying around guilt. I felt like everything that had happened was my fault. The people had the GoFundMe money that I raised, close to 100,000. I felt like I made a situation where they had to give me money. I felt like I made my parents worry. I made people around me feel, like they were gonna lose me. So I felt like everything was my fault, and that guilt was crushing me every single day. And Brent would sit me down like, you have to stop acting like you're two different people. This is a part of you. This is who you are now. This is what makes you identify with myself. And I think I was watching Date with Destiny, Tony Robbins. And I just had like a crying spell, and I was like, I am guilty. I feel guilty. And then a couple of months later, I laid in my bed, and it was complete dark. I looked up at the ceiling, and I was like, none of this is my fault. Yeah. And I'm going to make the best of it. And that was the moment where things switched.
And that was just this year, or last year.
Yeah.
Right. So Kawan, you said something I really want everyone listening to. You're getting God bless. So wise for a young man. So and wisdom comes with circumstances that grow us and stretch us and pull us apart, right? But one of the things you said, and I loved how you said it, was didn't have to do anything for the surgeries. I had to lay there, right? The work wasn't external, right? And oftentimes we think that when big things happen, it's the external, it's the gadgets, it's it's to get back in shape. It's all these things. Even if we have something as simple as getting in shape or weight loss or all these things, people do all these external things. But what you're saying is the work is on the inside.
That is the most difficult part of any journey. Yeah. Accepting what you have been through and letting it guide you. I never saw it until recently as a gift. Now every day I get up and my feet touch the ground. Any moment after that is a bonus because I'm alive. Yeah. Some people didn't wake up today.
That's right. And so let's talk a little bit about acceptance, and I'm going to define it according to how I kind of work with people. And I say, when we sit in this place of acceptance, it is to look at what's so, right? So what's going on, the good, the bad, the indifferent, the all things. But this is the interesting thing, and you said it yourself, but it's to look at it without judgment, without guilt, without shame, right? Without anger, without all those stuff that we bring to it, and just look at it as this is what occurred. And it's only when we do the work to be able to give up those emotions that keep us stuck and keep the lid on, as you talked about it, and have things bubbling up. And in those moments, we are not in control because we're not accepting the what's so. So you lay in bed and you begin to accept the what's so.
Yeah, a lot of people, you become depressed because you're always dwelling on what was, or you become anxious because you're wondering what if. But if you accept and live in what is in this moment, every moment, then you accept. You start to look at the situation that, like even now, if I were to knock over this water on my desk, it's like it already happened. So it's no point in getting upset. Lion King is the best movie I've ever seen, and there was one scene in particular when Rafiki the monkey hit Simba in the head with a stick, and he said, "Ow, why'd you do that?" It's like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. And then he swung the stick again, and he ducked. You learn from it. So everything that happens to me is a lesson. I'm grateful for every experience I have going forward. And the biggest things I've learned from this whole experience is gratitude, patience, and perseverance. Those are the skills that led me to my purpose.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about acceptance, and I want to break it down so that everybody really gets what you have done and what you're doing, is that, acceptance is, it's like when you do it, it opens up this blank slate, right? But acceptance is accepting the past, but not living in the past, accepting the unknown of the future, but not worrying about the future, and being fully 100% in the present. But this is the interesting thing, is that when we are in the present and we are willing to embrace what comes at us, we begin to see the beauty in what's coming at us, but we also begin to sit in this thing called solution, right? Because you're no longer denying and living in those two places that aren't real, past and future. You're in the present and you're saying, okay, this is what is. And the only other thing as this is what is what do I do now, given that this is what is, right?
Yeah, I like to say, like dogs, don't worry about what happened or what is going to happen. They are right here. I want what I want right now. I'm going to do what I want to do right now. I think it's just a better way to experience life.
Yeah.
You can't change your past. You can't control your future. So the easiest way to live is just to every moment do what you can, live in that moment and experience in that moment, because you miss things. And now I don't miss things. I notice the things that are around me. I've asked people, when's the last time you looked up at the stars? They can't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Because those moments are not in the future. They're worried about when they got to get to work and what they're going to wear tomorrow. And what about the people you're around right now? What about the thoughts you're having? What about what's going to make you feel pleasure or joy in this moment? And those are the things I look for every day.
And you are learning a lesson that will carry you so far in terms of joy, right? Because I love the two things you said. You said one is I sit in gratitude for the moment, right? But you also are 100% present to the moment.
Right.
And so many people, particularly in the North American society, where we're so caught up in the busy of life and the production for the future, or the worry of like all those different things, it is that we actually aren't 100% present. Like you will go out with someone and they will be sitting with you on their phone doing all the different stuff, but they're not actually with you. Right?
Yeah, if I'm going out with somebody and they have a phone, I just leave mine at home.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so you have a new heightened appreciation for being present, for the gratitude of the moment, for the gift of the day.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. So what have you learned about, because I think the other thing is, someone, Cindy who is listening, Mary says, brave young man, so proud of you. Cindy was like, ooh, forgiveness. That's her word for the year, forgiveness, right? And they're talking about how wise you have become. How has this journey and what you've learned from this journey, how do you see it shaping your future? Where do you see, because, we started with, you left a vision of your life in, once that event happened, right? You left that vision, it changed. And now you're sitting in what we're calling unconditional acceptance. And that creates, and you're appreciative of who you are and who you're becoming in this new way of being. What has that created for Kawan as he looks into his future and says, this is what I'm destined to be, do, have? What has come up?
Yeah, I've had some variations of the same conversation, even today. You know, when soldiers come back from war and they're used to fighting, they're not sure always what to do when they get back to civilian life. And I felt like afterwards, I was looking for the next fight. I was looking for the next fight and I couldn't find it. So that was something I had to deal with. But I had a question asked me recently, what did you do with that warrior energy? How did you change it to repurpose your life? And I just said, sharing my story is giving a gift and giving value to other people, and sharing that story is my way of transmuting that energy into something more effective for the situation I'm in now. The power from sharing my story, my superpower now is vulnerability. So if you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. That is what I do on a regular basis, and just being authentic with myself and expressing, I say vulnerability is my superpower. Imagination and perseverance are my fuel sources, and empathy is more of a choice. But
I want you to say that again because you got gurgly. So vulnerability is your superpower, and
imagination and perseverance are my fuel sources, and empathy is my weapon of choice. But when people talk about empathy, they always talk about it externally, like giving empathy to someone else. I want to say perspective to me is a way of expressing empathy to yourself, and that's very important.
Wow. Oh my God, there's so many nuggets in what you're saying. I'm like, okay, how old are you? And I get that you've probably lived many years in your short period of time. That's what it seems like. I love it, giving empathy to yourself. And there was something that you said that then you said this, and it was another great nugget. I'm so impressed with who you are becoming, right? And I think the gift that you're giving everyone is that, life does come down our street. And a lot of times it doesn't come down the way we expect it. And I think what you're saying is if you're able to accept where life leaves you in the moment when you stand back up, that's the place to start and embrace that and embrace who you're destined to become after that moment. The beautiful thing that you said, I just remembered it, was you said when soldiers come back from war, they're accustomed to the fight. And for a lot of people, the fight is the addiction, right? We're addicted to so many things. There's addiction to anger, there's addiction to the struggle, there's addiction to the fight. And I love that you're encouraging people to be reflective enough to not make fighting the habit, the automatic way of being, but to really use that energy in a different way. Because I know lots of people that fight is just what they do because that's all they know. And I think what I'm hearing you say is I'm encouraging you to, it's reflection, right? To do the work of what creates the continuous need to fight and to shift that energy.
Yeah, acceptance allows you, a lot of times when you go through trauma, you have a full cup. Acceptance allows you to empty your cup so others can pour into you. And then you can transport that and pour it into other people's cup, and it starts a cycle. So acceptance is getting rid of that spoiled liquid so you can fill your cup up with some crystal clear water and spread that message to the world. I heard Les Brown say the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. So I think it's your obligation to share your story, share your journey, to change and impact the lives of others. That's my purpose.
And you're definitely living it. And I think what I want to add to what you're saying is, acceptance is really the journey from victim to hero, right? And I think, you know, and when I say victim, I'm not saying victim from a judgmental place, but I'm saying victim from that's often the experience that people have when life comes down their street and leaves them with something they didn't want or didn't expect, right? And our first place is to sit in is to be the victim of our circumstances, the victim of the situation. And I think what happens when you and I sit in unconditional acceptance is we have the opportunity to find, as you said, to empty the cup of all those things that we're working through and just let them go, let them go. And they're often emotions, right? Let go of that, let go of the guilt, let go of the shame, let go of the anger, let go of the fight. And in that empty space, right, we get to be filled with new stuff.
Exactly.
Right. And that's the place where transformation and shifting actually occurs. And that's where heroes are born. And, you know, and what I love in you know, even in listening to you, we love heroes because heroes are the people that rise from the craziest situations, right? The situations where you're like, I didn't expect you to get up, you know, and I'm sure people were like, 3 times, I didn't expect you to get up.
Yeah. And you know, now it's important to me to leave some type of legacy. You know, I heard on this movie, The Sandlot, came out the year I was born. And there was a quote. He said, remember, kids, heroes always remember, but legends never die. So, you know, I want to take my story and leave a legacy to be legend, if you will.
And I'm sure to inspire others who are walking a journey similar to yours, that there's something beautiful at the other end.
Yeah, I like to classify myself not as a motivational speaker, but an inspirational communicator, because I want my story to pull something from within you to push you forward in your purpose and your mission.
Awesome, fantastic. So I want to close with, I know you've got a book, and tell us a little bit about how people can get that book to learn more and hear the deeper details. I mean, we could talk forever, the deeper details of your story. How can they connect to find that?
So the book, going through editing now. It'll be available, I want to say Marchish.
Okay.
Self-publishing. So I'm going to have a website where you can get it on. It'll be available on all the platforms, Amazon, things like that. So you can get the book. It's just a really detailed version of the story I told you. And if you want to know the nitty-gritty details and all the things that we didn't have time to mention, then pick that book up. It's called Favor: How Stroke, Struggle, and Surgery Help Me Find My Life's Purpose. And
So
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Kawan, say the title again, because you gurgled a little bit, and I want to make sure everybody gets it.
Okay, the title is Favor: How Stroke, Struggle, and Surgery Help Me Find My Life's Purpose. And
Wow.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, everyone. Well, we have been speaking with Mr. Kawan Glover. Just an inspirational story. And the topic today was unconditional acceptance. And you are a total example of what happens when you sit in that place of accepting the hand that you have been dealt and turning it around and making it a winning hand, if you will. Kawan, let us know when the book comes out. We'll make sure to help you promote it. And, you know, and you guys are probably wondering, okay, so what is the word today? The word today is mastermind. So if you're listening, put that word in the comment section. That way you'll have access to the replay. You'll have access to our free gift. And then you will also keep in touch because we're going to have other spectacular guests. I wanted Kawan to kick off the year because, you know, I wanted to start with like could we top this? I don't know. We're going to work at it. Kawan, thank you so much. Can we have you back when the book comes out?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, fantastic. All right, everyone. This is Suzanne Hart. I'm here with Kawan Glover. Thank you for joining us. And I will see you back here next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Kawan, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. See you guys later.